amongst other topics that I'd like to discuss today are how exactly to read these words. Is V'yolda going on Muchkaras and Mascaras? The point of the Brisa telling us that if there's a cow that was rented out and that cow gives birth, then the Bechor will get Pishnayim. Or are we meant to understand that the Brisa is making comment on the rent money? Okay, that might take us to a discussion as to what's the nature of a rental relationship in general, of a rental agreement in general. There are a couple of different ways of understanding the nature of a rental agreement. Then we will try to perhaps, we will also try to go through the Rashbam on top of Kuf Chav Daled Amud Aleph, and that will lead us to a bit of a discussion concerning the nature of the halacha, which says that if there's Shevach Sheshiv Chunechasim, La'achar Misaviyem, then the Bechor doesn't get the Shnayim. So why exactly is that? So that perhaps we'll talk about the context of that Rashbam. We'll see that there is an interesting Rambam. The Rambam paskins that which it says in the Brisa. What's wrong with Rambam paskin what it says in the Brisa? Poor Rambam. When he paskins against the Gemara, we give him a hard time. When he paskins like the Gemara, we give him a hard time. What's the problem with Rambam paskining like it says in the Brisa? Anybody? Rabbi?
It's only the Rebbe Shita?
Right. The Rambam Paskin, like it says in the Brisa, and the problem is that part of the Brisa, at least, is like Rebbe. So why would the Rambam Paskin like a part of the Brisa that's going like Rebbe? Okay. Something that we'll talk about that as well. But let's begin by trying to read through the Gemara, Kuf Chav Gimel Amud Beis, the parts relating to Kodshim that Lena we're leaving for now. Okay, so says the Gemara, 5 lines from bottom. Hiniach lem aviyah, par muchkaras u'muskaras biyad acherim. Or sha'oif ro ba'afar biyalda, b'chor nolta b'yishnayim. So, as you guys saw, Machlok Rishonim, how to understand that Brisa. The Ritva and Rabbeinu Yonah understand that biyalda is referring to also the case of muchkaras u'muskaras. Guys, see, Rabbeinu Yonah on today's sheet. Not that one. One second, please. Not that one. Okay. Let's try this. Does anybody want to try to put Rabbeinu Yonah?
It's on the sheet before.
Go back.
On the sheet before.
It was on sheet one of today.
Yeah. Does someone want to take over the screen and put it on? Is somebody able to do that? Or
I think if Rebbe takes it off, then we can. Oh, okay.
Okay, now you can put it on. Thank you. So says the Rabbeinu Yonah, I turn over Mukhulei. Hi Violda Akula Milsakai. Komaniachlem Aviam Par Mukhkars Miskars Violda, Shros about Violda, Cornelto Pishnaim Blood. Now, when it says in the Brisa of Violda, that refers also to the case of Mukhkars Miskars. Who cares that the cow is Mukhkars Miskars? If the main point of the Brisa is that the Bechor gets Pishnaim of the blood of the father's animal, so why in the world would it tell us that the cow is Mukhkars Miskars? Well, of course, the Gemara indicates. You would have thought that once the cow is rented out, then in a certain sense, it's no longer the father's rishus. So the Brisa says that even though the cows are rented out, it's still considered to be enough in the father's hold that it's considered to be muchzak. Thus, the Bukhar would get pi shnai. So again, hi biyolda kula milsa kai. Well, maniach lem anvir b'bar bukhar some skars biyolda shaitzor ba'efur biyolda. In the case Bukhar gets pi shnai. Bein tzarach loma b'shevach b'gufa par. The shevach of the gufa par certainly the Bukhar is going to get pi shnai. Okay. The Rashbam, as could be proven from the Rashbam, Kov Chav Dalet Amud Aleph, maybe later we'll see this, can be proven from the Rashbam that the Rashbam understands that Mukhkaras and Muskaras, the top of discussion in the Brisa, that the Bukhar gets Pishnaim in the rent money. From the Rashbam and Kov Chav Gimel Beis, that tells us that Mukhkaras is Lamach Tischar and Muskaras is Davar Kotzev. That doesn't tell us that the point of the Brisa is that the Bukhar gets Pishnaim that rent money. That Rashbam is just describing to us what Mukhkaras and Muskaras mean. But from the Rashbam, Kuf Chav Dalet Ralph, it can be proven. Maybe we'll point it out, maybe we won't. It can be proven that the Rashbam understands that the topic of discussion in that part of the Brisa is with respect to the rent money, not with respect to the vlad. Now, it should be pointed out that this machlokas might not be as significant as it might seem. After all, this machlokas is not necessarily machlokas lahalacha, might just be machlokas in terms of how to read the Brisa. Because it could be the lahalacha, both Rabbeinu Yonah and the Ritva on one hand, and the Rashbam on the other, might agree that the Bukhar will get Pishnayim in also the rent money, and also in the Vlad, in the case of Mukhkaras and Muskaras as well. So it's a machlokas in terms of how to read the Brisa, but not necessarily a machlokas halacha. I think someone was about to comment. Someone was going to ask. No? Okay. Okay. Now we should point out that the Rabbeinu Yonah does state explicitly, that although the Brisa is talking about the Vlad, he does say, "V'hu hadin le'inyan schiras hapara, shnota ba pishnayim li the Rebbe." Although the Brisa is talking about the Vlad, but the same din would be true of the rent money in light of the fact that the father rented it out. Parenthetically, Rabbeinu Yonah implies that if the kids would have rented it out, then the Bukhar would not get Pishnayim. Okay. And he says that Ein Hefresh, there's no distinction. Last one line is Hefresh. Ein Hefresh, Mishevach, Migufa Parkagon Vlad, Ben Hashevach Ba Machmas Parkagon Schius. He says there's no reason in the world to distinguish between the Schius, the rent money, and the Vlad, and just as according to Rebbe, the Vlad's just as according to Rebbe, the Bukhar gets Pishnayim, the Vlad also get Pishnayim in the Schius. Okay.
Rebbe, the Ritva would, we can assume that the Ritva would agree with Rabbeinu Yonah on those views?
To some extent. To some extent. Maybe we'll take a look at the Ritva in a bit. So in any case, I both said, just to summarize, so we have machlokas how to read the Brisa, but at this point, this machlokas might not necessarily be a machlokas la'alacha. Could be that la'alacha, they'll all agree the Bukhar will get Pishnayim by the rented cow, also the respect to blood, and also the Demei schemes. Okay, maybe we'll take a look at the Ritva. Ritva that was not on today's sheet. Ritva was on the sheet of Yom Aleph, I believe it was. If somebody could place the Ritva, please.
Me?
The Ritva, I think, was on what day was the Ritva? Yom Aleph, was it, or Yom Beis? It was on the left side of the sheet. David or Yisrael? Okay, the Ritva hopefully will be with us. We'll maybe give the weather report or listen to some music while we have the no, whatever. So thank you, Rafi. Okay, so the Ritva. Let me just point out the Ritva seem to have a different girsa of the Rashbam than we do. He claims that the Rashbam agrees that the Viyolda goes on Mukhkars and Muskars. As you see on the bottom, he points out that that's not the case. In our Rashbam, we don't have that. But the Ritva himself says that Viyolda goes also on Mukhkars and Muskars. Before we go into the Ritva, let's just, before we read the Ritva, let's just outline on his discussion. The Ritva proves from the Gemara that the Gemara understood the Brisa. It proves from the Gemara's discussion on the Brisa that the Gemara understood that Viyolda is referring to also Mukhkaras and Muskeres. Okay, but then he says, wonderful. I can prove that the Gemara understood the Brisa that way, but why did the Gemara understand the Brisa that way? Why did the Gemara understand the Brisa in this fashion? Why not understand that Mukhkaras and Muskeres, the top of the discussion, is with respect to what, Rabbi Osai, please help me? Mukhkaras and Muskeres, maybe discussion with respect to the
Money.
Money.
the rent money. Rent money. Okay, that's the discussion in the Ritva. Okay, by way of introduction, to be able to discuss this point intelligently, let us put everything else on the side for a minute, and let's talk about the following issue. We touched upon this issue a little bit on Daf Hey Amid Beis in Baba Basra, and that is the following. Let me ask you the following question. We know there's a din that if I own a chatzer, then if something falls into that chatzer of hefker, then I'm going to begin a chatzer. So if I have a chatzer and some cow is kind enough, some cow from the kibbutz comes and gives me some fertilizer, some manure, which I could use as fertilizer on my field. If the cow produces some zebel on my field, then that belongs to me b'din kenin chatzer. Okay. What happens though in the following situation? Let's say I rented out my chatzer to you. Ruben rents out his chatzer to Shimon. So who is going to begin in chatzer? Who is it that's going to begin in chatzer? The maskir or the socher? The maskir or the socher? This depends to some extent, and on one of the sheets today, we won't look at it inside now, but on sheet 3 that had in second B'Talmudit and the Gemara Bava Metzia, there's a discussion as to who's going to begin in chatzer. Is the masker kono or is the socher kono? And that depends to some extent on the following issue. How does one understand a schirus arrangement? A schirus arrangement can be understood in a number of ways. One could understand that when I rent to you a cow or rent to you a house, then in effect I am selling you the house for some amount of time. If I rent you a car for a week, I'm selling you the car for a week. It's not your typical sale, but I'm selling you the car for a week. I'm selling you the house, selling you the chutzah for a week. Well, one could understand, no, that I'm not selling it to you for a week. I'm just allowing you to use it. And when you pay, you're paying for the use of that. You're paying for the use of that field of that car. But essentially, I'm still the owner. So again, is schirus in effect a sale for time? Just like you can sell half of a field, half of a car, just like you can sell it something this way, you can sell it that way. You can sell it for a certain amount of time. On Thursdays, this will belong to you. For certain times, it will belong to you. So should we understand that schirus is a sale for some amount of time? The Gemara in Bava Metzia, in fact, has an expression that schirus is men kar liyomi. Schirus is a sale. The Gemara in Zayin Amid Beis says that there's a din of ona'ah, just like there's an issur of overcharging if I sell you a house, if I sell you a car, also if I rent you a car, this is a din of ona'ah. Because after all, schirus is memkar liyomi. So that Gemara implies that schirus is sale for a brief amount of time. And there are those that understand that's a general principle. There are others though that understand that only respect to ona'ah to review schirus as a sale for time. But generally speaking, that's not what schirus is all about. Generally speaking, schirus is just allowing somebody else to use it, and somebody else needs to pay for that use. So of course, this would impact who is going to begin in chatzar. After all, if you understand that when I rent to you a field, then when I rent you a chatzar, then you are the owner for that amount of time, then obviously you're going to be going to begin in chatzar. If you understand though, that when I rent to you a field, I'm still the owner, just I'm letting you have it, I'm letting you use it for some amount of time, and there's more reason to assume that would be going to begin in chatzar. Okay, there are other stuff into that chakira. In any case, that machlokas is found on sheet 3. Those interested to take a look later in the second Talmudit. There is a famous piece in the Kuntres HaSfekos written by the brother of the Tzos that does indicate he seems to take the position that schirus is basically a sale for some amount of time, as is the simple reading of the Gemara in Bava Metzia. As I said, there are those that limit that Gemara in Bava Metzia to just be talking about with respect to Hilchos Ona'ah. The Gemara, after all, has an expression in Kedushin, Yeshno l'schirus mitchila ba'ad sof. The Gemara says that when the obligation to pay is not one which exists at the very beginning when the schirus begins, but yeshnam schirus mitchila ba'ad sof. Schirus is mitchila ba'ad sof. So that sounds like the obligation to pay for schirus is only every day of the schirus. There's more of an obligation to pay, more of an obligation to pay. If we should understand that schirus is like a sale in a certain sense, so at what point should the one that's renting be obligated to pay? Already at the very beginning, right? If you understand that schirus is a sale for some amount of time, then the obligation to pay in theory should be at the very beginning. So the Kuntres HaSfekos, though, he says that when the Gemara says Yeshem l'schirus mitchila ba'ad sof, that just means if I hire you to work for me, then there's no obligation to pay for the beginning. But generally speaking, with respect to schirus, the obligation is to pay. In theory, there should be an obligation to pay at the beginning. There should be an obligation to pay at the beginning due to the fact that when I rent something to you, I'm selling to you some amount of time. Okay, so just for that, before we close that screen, so to speak, so I just mentioned that there's two ways I'm understanding the nature of schirus. Is schirus a sale for some amount of time, or schirus a setup where you use it and you pay for that use? Okay, let's get back to our ritva. So the ritva, Osha Isa Ro Ba'afar V'yolda B'chor Notel Pi Shnaim. So he quotes the Rashbam, as we said, that's not our girsa, but they themselves seems to be taking the position. The Chikasar V'yolda Afilu Muchakaras Muskaras Kai. Like which Rishon that we just saw, like Rabbeinu. Anybody? Please.
Rabbeinu
Yonah. Thank you. The Chinkastan Yoda feel Machas Muskai. Lomar Shim Yoda, not Skar Bukhula. Okay. The Chaim Muchach Lefanenu. And this I can prove from the Gemara. I mean, to Parachina and Kevin Tan Muchakar Skars, my Tanroba Apar, Machadagavna, Aritabav. The Gemara, after all, says, hey, once you tell me Muchakaras Muskaras, I already know Roba Apar. Once you tell me Muchakaras Muskaras, that's hired out to somebody else, so I certainly know Roba Apar, where the cow wasn't hired out to somebody else. That's the Gemara's question. So that question would be a lot smoother if the case of Muchakaras Muskaras on one hand, Roba Apar on the other were parallel cases. If they're parallel cases, then the Gemara's question makes more sense. But if you understand the Muchakaras Muskaras, the top of the discussion is the rent money, and Roba Apar, the top of the discussion is the blood, then the Gemara's question is a little bit funny. Okay. What would the Rashbam respond to that? Well, the Rashbam would say, okay, no, funny but not hysterical. the Rashbam might comment that, as we saw, Rabbeinu Yonah did indicate that the din of the rent money and the din of the vlad should go together. We saw there was this line in Rabbeinu Yonah that the din of the rent money and the din of the vlad should go together. They're both types of profit that are accrued from the father after the father's death. Therefore, they would go together. And therefore, the Rashbam would say it is true that the Gemara says once I know muchkaras and muskaras, I know ro'ah ba'afar, which does indicate that there's some sort of similarity, but doesn't mean that the case is identical. As long as we said that there's significant similarity, and knowing one would tell me the other, then the Gemara could read straight. In any case, the Ritva goes on to say, after pointing out that the Gemara would prove the Gemara's comparison between muchkaras and muskaras and ro'ah ba'afar indicates to us that the case is a case of that V'yolda also goes in muchkaras and muskaras. Ritva then asks the following question: Miu kashilan, v'nalei talmudaha. Granted, the Gemara indicates that V'yolda goes also muchkaras and muskaras. Granted, the Gemara indicates that, but how does the Gemara know that? The Gemara, when it read the Brisa, how did the Gemara know to read the Brisa in that fashion? After all, maybe muchkaras and muskaras is talking about schirus, and ro'ah ba'afar is referring to the vlad. So how did the Gemara know to read the Brisa in that fashion? So just to zoom out for half a second, the Ritva indicated that he proved from the, I meant in the figurative sense. The Ritva indicated that we could prove from the Gemara that the Gemara understood the Brisa in particular fashion. How did the Gemara know to understand the Brisa in that fashion? The Ritva says the following: Ve'shlomar, if you would say that V'yolda doesn't call muchkaras and muskaras, in Cain, Amaikasan muchkaras and muskaras, imishum deshakol bepitma v'shivcha debehema. Why would it say muchkaras and muskaras? It would tell us simply that the bechor gets pishnaim in the animals getting fatter, having more meat. So that wouldn't be that can't be, because that would be true even according to Rabbanan. And the price is coming to tell us a case where only according to Rabbi does the bechor get pishnaim. The brisa, the muchkaras and muskaras can't be referring to the actual fattening of the animal. And if it's referring to the rent money, that also can be, because that is just like a milveh. That would have the same status. The rent money would have the same status as a loan. If the brisa were referring to a loan, it should state explicitly that bechor gets pishnaim in a loan. It is true that according to Rebbe, bechor gets pishnaim in a loan, but if the brisa wanted to talk about a loan, it would say it explicitly. So the Ritva says the following: how did the Gemara know that the brisa is referring to the vlad and not to the rent money? Because he says, hey, the rent money has the same status as a loan. And if the brisa wanted to tell me, wanted to speak about a loan, it should have said so explicitly. It shouldn't have spoken about a loan by speaking about the rent money. Why not? I don't know. But in any case, says the Ritva, if you wanted to speak about a loan, say explicitly did of a loan. So in summary of that last point, the Ritva says that the Gemara understood that muchkaras and muskaras cannot be referring to the rent money, because that rent money has the same status as a loan. And if the brisa wanted to speak about a loan, it should have spoken about the loan explicitly. So it must be that muchkaras and muskaras is not referring to the rent money, must be referring to the vlad. Adkan dvarav of the Ritva. Okay, now what would the Rashbam respond to that? So the Achronim suggest that the Rashbam the Achronim suggest that the Rashbam would not be so bothered by that question. Let's think for a second together, Abose. Is the rent money just like a loan? Or is the rent money different than a loan? Is the rent money like just like a loan that the father lent out, or is the rent money somewhat different than a loan? Or might it depend on which rent money?
It's pretty different.
Well, let's present it in the following fashion. One might distinguish between the rent money that was accrued during the father's life. Again, what happened over here? The father rented out a cow for a year. The father died after part of that year. So the rent money that and the Yorshim, they split up. Let's say they're splitting up at the end of the year. They're splitting up at the end of the year. Then, the end of the year, there's rent money that was accrued before the father's death, and rent money that was accrued after the father's death. The rent money that was accrued before the father's death, in a certain sense, is that like a loan? And the rent money after the father's death, is that like a loan or not? Would you distinguish between the two? Can anybody see where a part of that rent money is more like a loan and part is less like a loan?
After the father's death is more like a loan.
Is there anybody that would beg to differ?
I think the opposite.
If there's rent money that was owed at the time when the father died, so some rent money that was accrued, so you have a situation where there was money that was owed to the father, money that was already owed to the father at the time of his death, money that in a certain sense was owed to the father at the time of his death. That is something that is like that's something which is like a loan. That's something which is like a loan. But hey, the money that was only accrued as a result of their using the cow after the death of the father, the money that the renters owed as a result of using it after the death of the father, so that's something which is like a loan. That's somewhat dissimilar, right? Did you guys hear that? The money I saw in this various Achronim suggest that the money that was accrued after death of the father, that's something that's somewhat distinct from a loan, because that's money that wasn't owed yet at the time of the death of the father. It's only something which was owed after the death of the father due to the use of the choker of the socher after the death of the father. So the Ritva said, hey, chakiris and schiris, mucharis and mucharis, that can't be referring to the rent money, because the rent money is a loan. And the Brisa meant to be talking about a loan, it should say a loan. So, hey, the Rashbam might respond to that the rent money is the rent money during the father's lifetime. That, in a certain sense, is parallel to a loan. That's money that was owed, in a certain sense, at the time when the father died. But the rent money that's owed for the months after the father died, that's not like a loan. Do you guys those that hear that, so you can give me a reaction, a thumbs up or thumbs down or whatever.
How was money owed at the time of the father's death?
I'm sorry?
How was money owed at the time of the father's death? If the father made a condition not to
rented out
rent
by
the
the
year.
father 4 months before his death, so the rent money that was accrued before the father's death, that in a certain sense is parallel to a loan. That the Ritva is right. The Ritva is right that rent money is parallel to a loan. But the Rashbam would say that the rent money after the father's death, that's somewhat distinct from a loan. That's money that wasn't owed yet at the time of the father's death. That's shevach that came about after the father's death by a loan. So the father lent out the $100. He actually gave the $100 to the love, and thus he is the one that's fully responsible when the installment get back. That $100 is the $100 that the father gave out. So in a certain sense, the money that was owed at the time of the death of the father, that is like a milveh. But the Rashbam will say that the rent money that was accrued later is not like a loan. Again, just to put things in perspective. The Ritva had some line that rent money is equal to a loan. And if the Brisa wanted to speak about a loan, it should have said so explicitly. The Rashbam might respond that it is true that rent money that was accrued during the father's lifetime is like a loan, but the rent money subsequently does not have the status of a loan, is dissimilar to a loan in that it's money which only starts to be owed to the father. It's a debt which is only generated in a certain sense. That debt is only generated after the death of the father. So that's not like a loan. Yes, Benji. Is that just a raising of the hand? Right, okay.
Oh, yeah. Ravi?
Or is that a wanting to speak?
Yeah, Ravi?
Yes, sir. All
By
ears.
Mukhkaras, you only get it at the, you only get the half of the produce at the end.
Right. Well, that is true, but at least it was in a certain sense. I can hear where the Ritva says that is like a loan, because in a certain sense it was owed also by a loan. The time of payment, the actual time of payment is later, but it was owed during the father's lifetime in a certain sense. Because the debt was generated during the father's lifetime, at least on those few months that the father was alive. But certainly the money that was accrued after the death of the father, that's something that the Rashbam would say is dissimilar to a loan. Is dissimilar to a loan.
Rabbi?
Well, is it I'm sorry, let me just close the circle. Is it dissimilar or is it not dissimilar? It might depend on what's the nature of schirus. If schirus is like memkar selling for some amount of time, then when is there a theoretical obligation on the renter to pay? If when the father rents out an animal for a year,
In the beginning.
then in theory there's an obligation to pay from the beginning. So Achronim suggest I think that the Birkas Aaron, some Achron on this, and Torah are, I think, Omrim by Shivot, that the Ritva understood that schirus is a sale for some period of time, and thus, in fact, whether we're talking about paying for the use when the father was alive, or even we're talking about paying for the use after the death of the father, that payment is one that in a certain sense was owed from the very beginning. And from the very beginning, it is in fact similar to what, Rabbi Hosai? Similar to a loan. It's similar to a loan. But the Rashbam will understand that, Rabbi Hosai, that the nature of renting is paying for the use, not necessarily buying the object. It's paying for the use, and the debt is only accrued. The debt for the use is only accrued for the needs to pay for those months after the death of the father. That sum is only accrued after the death of the father. and thus it is dissimilar to a loan. But dissimilar to a loan. So in any case, we have a machlokas ritva and a rashbam, one which the truth is at this point at least is not one which would necessarily impact Dina Yerusha and Dina Bechor, but is somewhat of machlokas about how to understand the nature of a schirus arrangement, i.e., we have machlokas whether schirus arrangement is some sort of sale for a period of time, in which case we would say that the schirus arrangement, that the need for the renter to pay is one which in theory started at the very beginning, in which case the schirus arrangement would be somewhat similar to a loan. That's the ritva. Or would we say no, that true that the needs to pay for that period of time when the cow was being used during the father's lifetime, that is perhaps like a milveh, but the needs to pay what took place for that period after the father's lifetime is dissimilar to a milveh, and therefore the Rashbam would not necessarily be bothered by that question that the Ritva asked. Hey, the Ritva asked on the Rashbam, in effect, Ritva said that, of course, that Brisa cannot be referring to the Dmei Schirus, because Dmei Schirus is just like a loan. The Rashbam would say, no, Dmei Schirus is not identical to a loan. Okay, let's put that point on the side. For better or for worse, that point was, in a certain sense, parenthetical, in that it's not one that will impact necessarily the din of Bechor getting Pishnayim. But that's something which I found an interesting hezber of the that machlok between the Ritva and the Rashba.
Yeah,
Okay. Yes, sir.
If the Ritva holds that it's to do with the schirus is where you get it sold to you for a certain amount of time, then
Right.
why would the Vlad go to the Bechor if it surely the person that owns the cow at that time would get to keep the Vlad?
That's a good question, but what I would assume is that being sold for that time with respect to the ability to plow with it, not okay. There is a concept of acharacha. Whatever. Let's leave it at that for now. If you ask me later, I could elaborate on that a little bit more. I want to. Okay, that's certainly an excellent question. Okay. Let me just point out for those people that did take a look. Any guys here spend some time in Rabbeinu Yonah? So let me just point out, with respect to Rabbeinu Yonah, we're not going to be discussing this point now, but does Bechor get Pishnayim and Milveh? So those people that learned the Bekias, learned the section Bekias, saw that according to Rebbe, Bechor gets Pishnayim and Milveh. According to Rabbanan, it's less clear. The Gemara has a machlokes about this point, whether Bechor gets Pishnayim and Milveh according to Rabbanan. Assuming a Bechor does get Pishnayim and Milveh, the Rabbeinu Yonah is not sure within that possibility the Bechor does get Pishnayim and Milveh. Rabbeinu Yonah has a suffix whether the Bechor would get Pishnayim of the rent money that was accrued during the father's lifetime. The rent money that's accrued after the father's lifetime, that Rabbeinu Yonah says that's clear, that according to Rabbanan, the Bechor is not going to get Pishnayim. But the rent money that was accrued during the father's lifetime, on one hand, you might say that it's just like a loan. After all, it's money that in a certain sense was owed to the father. On the other hand, it might be more similar to Ribbis, that Bechor doesn't get Pishnayim. Why might it be similar to Ribbis? Because, hey, respect to a loan, so the father gave $100 to the Loveh. Those $100 existed, were handed over by the father, which created a debt of $100. So that it's understandable the Bechor would get Bishnayim. But with respect to the rent money, even though the rent money was accrued during the father's lifetime, it's not as if the father ever was holding on to that rent money. And therefore, the Rabbeinu Yonah has a suffix about this point. So again, just to summarize that last point, Rabbeinu Yonah has a suffix within that possibility in the Gemara, that the Bechor gets Pishnayim Milveh. Would the Bechor get Pishnayim in the rent money that was accrued during the father's lifetime? Okay, I don't want to get any more into that. I just figured since some guys presumably did spend time at that Rabbeinu Yonah, it's worthwhile mentioning that. Okay, Rabbi said. I want to get back to the Gemara. But first I need to mention something about. I need to mention something by way of introduction. We know that full ownership. Let's start with a statement of Rabbi Yochanan. There's a famous statement of Rabbi Yochanan which appears many times in Shas that says the following: Amar Rabbi Yochanan, Gezel v'lo nisya'ashu haba'alim, ze v'ze enim yicholim lahaktish, ze lefi she'eno shalo, v'ze lefi she'eno b'rshuso. Again, if something was stolen from me, I own an object, and that object was stolen from me. I'm still the owner, but it's no longer in my control. Rabbi Yochanan, Gezel, lo nisya'ashu haba'alim. Something was stolen from me, but I was not Yaish. So ze v'ze enim yicholim lahaktish. The Gazlan can't be makdish, and for that matter, he can't sell it. And the Gazlan can't be makdish, he can't sell it. And similarly, the Nigzal cannot be makdish, cannot sell it. The Gazlan can't be makdish because it doesn't belong to him. Eno shalom. I, the Nigzal, can't be makdish because eno b'rshusa. It's not in my rishus. It's not in my control. It's not in my control. It does belong to me, but it's not my control. Okay, so Gezel v'lo nisya'ashu haba'alim ze lefi ze v'ze enim yicholim lahaktish. Neither could be makdish, neither could be mocher. Ze lefi she'eno shalom, ze lefi she'eno b'rshus. That appears many times in Shas. If somebody reminds me later, I'll send to you where that is, if anybody's interested. Okay. What about an object which I'm mafkid by you? Let's say I'm a mafkid, I deposit my book by you, deposit my table by you. Is that considered to be eno b'rshusi? No, that's going to be shali and b'rshusi. That's both shali and b'rshusi. When it's in your hands, that's an extension of it being in my hands. Okay. My nafkin of something is shali b'rshusi. Well, as we said, nafkin whether you can be makdish it, and also whether you can sell it. Something which is not b'rshuscha, you can't be, you can't operate upon that. You can't. This is very important. On Erev Pesach, if you didn't sell your chametz before chatzos, and after chatzos you can't sell it, because after all, once chatzos comes, asaba na'a, and it's no longer b'rshuscha. So those that study Yisrael are not shalcha together, but even if it's shalcha, it's not b'rshuscha, and you can't sell it. You can't properly bottle it. You need to burn it. Okay. What about an object that you hired out, that you rented to somebody? An object that you rented to somebody. Is that b'rshuscha or not b'rshuscha? An object that you rented out. Is it or is it not b'rshuscha? So it's normally assumed to be b'rshuscha. It's normally assumed that you have the ability to sell it. Perhaps you can't sell it for that period that the fellow was entitled to use it. But in principle, we normally assume that an object that was rented out is considered to be just like a pikadon. It's agreed by all. It's considered to be b'rshusah. So similarly, an object that's rented out, we assume is considered to be b'rshusah as well. However, this is not without machlokas. The ktos in Reish Yud Aleph over here with respect to Pikadon. You guys see over here. You guys, there's our Ben Yoda. So the ktos over here in Reish Yud Aleph, Pikadon Yad Acher. Mishum Decholei Chadis and Rishus Marihu. A Pikadon is considered to be a Shusa, wherever it is, it's considered Marishus. Kasam Yam Shal Shlomo, the Marshal. Kama, Ladiachol Hakdish, that which you're able to be Makdish, a Pikadon. Hainu Bais Ham Mushkan, O Karka Mushkan. That is a Mashkan, a Pikadon, the Karka, the Olam Rishus, the Marikai. Aval Sachar Behemto, a Shar Metaltlin, if you hire out, you rent out your animal or other Metaltlin, Oishkinam, Pshita, Lo Yochol Hakdish, Midrab Yochol. Ma basic Rishusa, Kol Rishusa. Vizeh Eno Rishusa. If you rent something out, it's not Rishusa. Okay. Says the Ksos, Onias Daiti, next paragraph, Mira, Madepshita le Marshal, that which Marshal was sure about, Lahai Kisa, in one direction, to the Hefech. It's clear to me the other direction. Right, a brewer midivray Tosberg Asfina, so says the Ksos, he thinks that's dead wrong. So we have a machlokas whether a object that is rented out to somebody is that considered to be Rishusi. That's what's normally assumed. That's what the Ksos assumes. Or do you say it's Eno Rishusi? That is what is understood by the Marshal with a nafkamina being. Whether the masker has the ability to be makdish and to sell it. Okay. Why do I mention that, Rabos? Why do I bring that up? Well, of course, you know why I bring it up. Because of the next line of the Gemara. The Gemara, Rabosai, at the end of the Amud, says the Gemara, Hinech lemavin, per muchkeres miskas bedechem, tries to rub up the yalda, machor noto pishnai. Hast muchkeres miskas labrishus the Mara did kaima. Muchkeres miskas, which is not in the rishus of the owner of the father. I'm with Turkil, Rob Afer by. So do I need to tell me that in the case of Rob Afer, after all, muchkeres miskas is not in the control of the father, it's rented out. So if they're over there, the Bukhar gets Bishnaim, certainly the Bukhar is going to get Bishnaim in the case of where the cow was just out to meadow. It's true that the cow was not standing in the barn, but still fully in the Rishus. It wasn't hired out, it wasn't rented out to somebody else. Okay, so let me just point out, maybe tomorrow we'll be discussing this a little bit more. The simple reading of the Gemara is that a cow that's rented out, is it Rishuso Shalom Rishuso? The simple reading of the Gemara is, of course, that a cow that's rented out is
not B'shus.
Not B'shusa, right? And that's the simple reading. That's Eno B'shusa. The Gemara says, the lab B'shusa the Marakaim. It's not in the Rishus of the owner. So the simple reading of the Gemara would seem to be like the Maharshal rather than like the Ktos. If we do assume like the Ktos, how would we understand our Gemara that says lab B'shusa? Well, what we would need to say is the following. Certainly a rented cow is B'shusa of the, is in the Rishus of the masker with respect to being able to be makdish it, with respect to being able to sell it. By the way, what would happen if the masker would, parenthetically, if the masker would be makdish it? According to the Ktos, masker, could it be makdish it right away or not? So that might depend on how you understand rental, right? If you understand rental as that I sold it for that amount of time, then the hektish wouldn't be valid. If it's just rental for, if it's just use, then maybe it would be, then maybe the hektish wouldn't come right away, whatever, in any case. So, and one might say that the machlok is about whether a masker is rishus or not, might depend on that discussion we had whether a rented cow is Rishus or not might depend on that earlier discussion. In any case, so we mentioned machlokas between the Ketzos and the Marshal. Whether rented object considered to be Rishus. We normally assume like the Ketzos that it is. The Marshal assumes that it's not. The simple reading of the Gemara is like the Marshal. If you understand like the Ketzos, then what will you do with our Gemara? So my guess is that what we will need to say is the following. It is true that in terms of being able to sell, being able to maktish, a rented object is considered to be sheli and Rishus. Because after all, you're in a certain sense an extension of me. I gave you permission to use the cow. Just it's when our Gemara says in a Rishuso, it's in the sense that the actual usage is something which I relinquished for that period of time. After all, if I rent you a cow, that everybody needs, if I rented you a cow and I decide that, hey, you know what? I rented you a cow for a month, for a year. And I say after half a year, after a part of the month, I say, you know what? I want it back. I cannot demand that cow back from you. I can't demand that cow back from you because you, from the very beginning, have some sort of kinyan which allows you to hold on to the cow. So we would say this in a Rishusi in the sense that I gave up the actual achilas peiros, the actual usage, the actual achilas peiros. So in that sense, it's called the eno Rishusi. So as far as being maktish, as far as selling, then we would presumably call it Rishusi. But being that the actual usage is not in my hands, so in that limited sense, it's called the eno Rishusi. That's what I would guess. That's what I would assume. Okay. Let us proceed in the Gemara. We might come back to that tomorrow, but for now, Rabbi said, let us proceed. By the way, Rabbi said, let me point out that certainly I'd be more than happy to go over any particular parts of the Gemara or of Shiur that people would like me to. You guys have my WhatsApp number, and we can try to find the time to do that. You guys also have my phone number in the event that the WhatsApp number is tied up. Okay, so it says the Gemara again. The Gemara asks that Rob Ba'afar is somewhat superfluous because after all, once you tell Mukhkars and Muskars, where the cow was lab rishus demar didu kaima amrit shakil, you say that he takes the bukhor gets bishnaim Rob Ba'afar mibai. Because Rob Ba'afar is certainly no less mutzak, muchzak, the hands of the father, than muchkaras and muskaras. So says the Gemara, meaning that it is true that which says Rob Ba'afar is not for the case of Rob Ba'afar itself. Rob Ba'afar itself, I can figure out from muchkaras and muskaras. Just Rob Ba'afar is necessary to shed some light on muchkaras and muskaras. What light does it shed? Well, hey, in the case of Rob Ba'afar, so where's the animal getting its food from? From Hefker. It's not getting the food from the Yisomim. So the Brisa means to tell us by putting Rob Ba'afar by telling us Rob Ba'afar and Muchkaras and Muskaras, it's there to tell us that the only time Muchkaras and Muskaras the Bukhar will get Bishnaim is if the animal is not getting its food from the Yisomim. But if it's a rental agreement in which the Yisomim are giving the food, then the Bukhar will not get Bishnaim. Because after all, that's like Shevach Tishbiki Yisomim Lachem Yisavim, and Shevach Tishbiki Yisomim Lachem Yisavim, Bukhar would not get Bishnaim. So to summarize, why does the Brisa give the case of a Rob Ba'afar? I can figure that out from Muchkaras and Muskaras. After all, Muchkaras and Muskaras is somewhat removed from the father, so there the Bukhar gets Bishnaim in the Vlad on the rental money. Koshke, the Bukhar will get Bishnaim in the Vlad of Rob Ba'afar. Answer, Enochinami. Rob Ba'afar itself is not a so much of a Rob Ba'afar is something that I could figure out from Mukhkaras and Muskaras. But I needed Rob Ba'afar there to shed light on Mukhkaras and Muskaras to tell us that which the Brisa says Mukhkaras and Muskaras, the Mukhkaras is going to get Pishnayim, that's limited to a situation where the Yisomim are not the ones feeding this rented cow. After all, if I rent the cow to my next door neighbor, so it could be that the arrangement is that I'm meant to provide the food. So in that case, though, the Brisa implies, the Brisa indicates that the Bechor would not get Bishnayim, because after all, there the benefit, the profit, the gain is something which is coming about through the Yisomim, and Shemach Sheshbich Yisomim, the Bechor does not get the Shnayim. It says the Gemara, Maro Ba'afar Shivcha de Menela Ka'asi, Local Chaser Ba'mizona, Af Mochkars and Muskaras, the only time Bechor gets Mishnayim is if it is Shivcha de Menela, Local Chaser Mizona, and the Yisomim not being Chaser Mizonas. Okay. So then, guys, so the Gemara explained Rabbi say why the Brisa needs to state Rob Ba'afar. Needs Rob Ba'afar to tell me that when is it the Bechor gets Mishnayim? Only when the increase, the benefit is not coming about through the Yisomim. The benefit is coming about through the Yisomim, investing effort, investing money, then the Bechor is not going to get Mishnayim. Okay. Now the Rashbam raises the question. Rashbam on Kuf Chav Daled Rav, as you guys saw, raised the question. Okay, explain to me why I need Rob Ba'afar. But now the question becomes, why in the world did it need to tell me Mukhkaras and Muskaras? Just tell me Rob Ba'afar, which I would know that the Bechor gets Mishnayim Rob Ba'afar, and know the Bechor gets Mishnayim when, in any case, parallel to Rob Ba'afar, i.e. Mukhkaras and Muskaras, in the case where the Yisomim aren't feeding. That's Rashbam's question, and he gives an answer. So Rashbam's question requires some explanation, and the Rashbam's answer requires some explanation. And that was meant to take place a half hour ago, but I guess we're behind schedule. Somebody should have pressed on that button that says move faster. Then maybe would have, in any case. So that's Rashbam's question. Is that question a good question, a bad question? Well, that question is a little bit of a funny question. Why is it a funny question? Again, Rashbam, let's just zoom out, so to speak, for a second. The Brisa gives the case of X and Y. Says the Gemara, well, why do you need Y? Just tell me X. And says the Gemara, well, hey, I need Y because Y tells me some principle. Tells me there's only Pishnayim when the Yisomim don't invest money, effort. Therefore, I do need Y. But now the Rashbam asks, well, what do you need X? So that's a strange question. Because after all, the Gemara indicated that there is, in a certain sense, a bigger chiddush by Mukhkaras and Muskaras. What's that bigger chiddush by Mukhkaras and Muskaras? The fact that Mukhkaras and Muskaras is lav, please help me. I
Lav
thank you. Is lav b'rshusay demari kai. So right there, the Gemara, when how did it phrase this question? Once I know X, I certainly know Y, implying that X is a bigger chiddush than Y. So if that's the case, then what's the Rashbam's question? Well, hey, should have just told me Y, and then it would know X. After all, it just told me Rob Ba'afar, I would say, granted, Rob Ba'afar, the Bechor gets Mishnayim, Mukhkaras and Muskaras, I would never know altogether that the Bechor gets Mishnayim, regardless of who's feeding it. I wouldn't know Mukhkaras and Muskaras altogether, in light of the fact that Mukhkaras and Muskaras is La B'Rshusa. So the Marshal seems to address this issue, and the Marshal seems to understand the following. Maybe we'll take a look at the Marshal, whatever, because we'll see if you have time. The Marshal understands that when the Gemara says that once I know Mukhkaras and Muskaras, I would also know Ba'afar, and the Gemara makes a Kal V'chomer, it's not really a Kal V'chomer. There's no real reason to distinguish between Mukhkaras and Muskaras and Rob Ba'afar. There's no real, when the Gemara says that Mukhkaras and Muskaras, Kol Shekain, Rob Ba'afar, it's not really Kol Shekain. It's just really who I did. Mukhkaras and Muskaras, yes, B'Rshusa, not B'Rshusa, factor is B'Rshusa, not B'Rshusa. doesn't really play a role. The Gemara just means to say that they're basically on the same level. It's not a genuine kal v'chomer. It's not a genuine kal v'chomer. Meaning it's not as if there's really a stronger svara, or it's not really a weaker svara that the Bechor should get Bishnaim by Mochkaras and Miskaras there is by Rob Afra. And therefore, they're basically similar. And since they're basically similar, therefore, the Gemara, in fact, can, therefore, the Rashbam can ask, well, hey, once I know Rob Afra, I would know Mochkaras and Miskaras. Okay, I guess we are out of time. Guys, the Marshal says something like, well, hey, you take a look at the Marshal that was on the Mar Makomos a number of days ago. I think that's what he implied. Okay, Bezrat Hashem, tomorrow we'll see interesting things about the Rambam, and also that Rashbam will perhaps try to go through. Okay, have a wonderful, wonderful day.